Hello everyone, I am here again with the last session on occipito-posterior position of the vertex. In this session, we'll talk about course of labor or also called difficulties of labor. Overall course of the labor is delayed due to delay in any stage of the labor. So, delay may occur either in the first stage or in the second stage or in the third stage of labor, which overall will delay the course of labor. Let's first see delay in the first stage of labor. Why there occurs delay in the first stage of labor? First very important cause is delayed engagement of fetal head due to there are different reasons, different causes for delayed engagement of the fetal head. Very important cause is persistent deflection of the fetal head. We have discussed earlier, the head may not be well flexed in the occipito-posterior position. It may be deflexed. So this continuous deflection may be the cause of delay in the first stage of labor. Now, why this persistent deflection leads to delay in the labor or delay in the first stage? Deflection increases the engaging diameter. Whenever the fetal head is deflexed, engaged diameter becomes occipitofrontal, that is 11.5 centimeter. Now you know that whenever the head is well flexed, the engaging diameter is suboccipitobregmatic, that is 9.5 centimeter. Here the length is 11.5 centimeter. So length of the engaging diameter increases, right? So this will cause delay in the engagement. Another cause is misdirected forces which are required to drive the head deeply into the pelvis. These forces are uterine contractions. If uterine contractions are good, they will allow the fetus to pass deeply into the pelvis or to accommodate deeply very well into the pelvis. But here, because of the improper, because of the abnormal uterine contraction, the head cannot settle deeply into the pelvis. So it may be the reason for the delayed engagement of the fetal head. Another cause of delay in the first stage is premature rupture of membranes. The deflexed head becomes ovoid and these cannot fit well into the spherical lower uterine segment. Whenever there is deflection of the head becomes ovoid and this ovoid shaped head cannot well accommodate in the lower segment properly. So there is loss of ball valve action. Uterine segment and fetus cannot accommodate each other properly, that is the ball valve action, so that is lost during the uterine contraction. Early rupture of membranes occur because of this and Leaker amni comes out. So premature rupture will delay the course of labor. Well flexed fetal head in the lower uterine segment acts as stimulus for uterine contraction. So whenever the head is well flexed and when the head is settled into the lower segment, it will improve uterine contraction because it acts as a stimulus. But in occipito-posterior position, the deflexed head cannot properly fit into the lower segment. That is what we just discussed in the previous slide. These causes abnormal uterine contraction. Because the head cannot properly fit into lower segment, because the head is deflexed, resulting uterine contractions are abnormal. These causes abnormal uterine contraction with slow cervical dilatation. When contractions are not good, cervix also dilates slowly. Labor pains are felt at the back. Because the contractions are not proper, the pains are felt at the wrong direction. So the pressure on the rectum and sacrum by wide occiput results in premature or early desire or urge for bearing down. Bearing down efforts, usually they are taken in the second stage of labor. But because of the pressure on the sacrum and the rectum that is caused by the occiput, because occiput is posterior, the woman will have frequent urge or desire to take bearing down effort. So these efforts are done by the woman even in the first stage, that is before complete cervical dilatation. So bearing down efforts in the first stage. Now you know that bearing down efforts are done by the pregnant woman to deliver the baby, to take out the baby, and they should be taken in the second stage of labor. Bearing down effort should be avoided in the first stage, that we have discussed in the normal labor, right? But here the pain, back pain is there, so the patient gets this urge, gets his desire in the first stage only. So this will ultimately make the patient exhausted, because in the first stage cervix is dilating, cervix has not yet fully dilated, so expulsion of the fetus is not going to occur after the strong bearing down efforts also, right? So this makes the patient exhausted. Above causes make the first stage of labor prolonged. The second stage is delayed due to long internal rotation of the fetal head. You know that there is 3/8 of circle rotation in the occipito posterior position, so that the occiput can lie under symphysis pubis. Occiput can be anterior. So this long internal rotation of the fetal head will delay the second stage of labor. Or there may be malrotation. Whenever there is incomplete flexion, there will be malrotation of the fetal head. So that can also delay the second stage. So this may cause arrest of the head due to subnormal pelvic shape and persistence of deflection of the head. So whenever there is malrotation, this will lead to deflection of the head, or this will lead to the arrest of the fetal head. Arrest in the labor will occur, right? And that will delay the second stage of labor. It's delayed for 2 hours in nullipara and 1 hour in multipara. So second stage may be delayed for 2 hours in nullipara and 1 hour in multipara patient. In the third stage, there is increased risk of PPH, that is postpartum hemorrhage, also increased risk of trauma to genital tract, and increased risk of the shock. Spontaneous or assisted vaginal delivery occurs as occipito anterior in majority of the cases, that is in 90% cases, where uterine contractions are good or they are enhanced by intravenous oxytocin stimulation. In homeopathy, we may give the drugs like pulsatilla, colophyllum, semicifuga to improve uterine contraction. Pelvic capacities are adequate and head gets well flexed during labor. So if these criteria are fulfilled, like when uterine contractions are good, pelvic capacities are adequate, and head is well flexed, then vaginal delivery is possible in majority of the cases. In some cases, spontaneous delivery may also happen as phase 2 pubis delivery with the possibility of perineal tear. So perineal tear is likely to occur during the delivery. In rest of the cases, spontaneous delivery doesn't happen or occur due to arrest of the malrotated head in the pelvic floor. So whenever there is incomplete flexion of the fetal head, whenever there is malrotation of the fetal head in the pelvic floor, spontaneous delivery, vaginal delivery may not occur. So if proper attention is not given, it may lead to obstructed labor. So you have to take care of this arrest in the labor. So that was the course of the labor in all the 3 stages. Now we come to the management part. The condition should be diagnosed. Occipito-posterior position should be diagnosed at the earliest. Now, what findings are in favor of this occipito-posterior position? Early rupture of membranes, fetal back palpated on the flanks, and FHS not being easily located because the back is posterior. So these findings are in the favor of occipito-posterior position. These findings should arouse suspicion of occipito-posterior position. Internal examination will confirm your doubt, confirm your suspicion. Now we see management in the first stage. With the onset of labor, assess general condition of a patient. Examine the patient for uterine contractions, for FHS and for CPD, that is cephalopelvic disproportion. So you have to examine the patient whether contractions are satisfactory or not, what is the status of the FHS and whether there is a CPD present or not. In marked CPD, you have to go for immediate cesarean section. So plan immediate cesarean section in case of marked CPD, severe CPD. Whenever there is severe degree cephalopelvic disproportion, vaginal delivery is not going to occur. So you have to go for immediate cesarean section. In cases with no or borderline CPD, labor is allowed to progress for vaginal delivery. Right? So vaginal delivery can be allowed in cases where CPD is not present or CPD is present but only borderline. Also conditions like elderly primigravida, preeclampsia, post-maturity, post-cesarean pregnancy, big baby, early rupture of membranes need cesarean section. Means these are the indications for cesarean section because complications are likely to occur when vaginal delivery is attempted in any of these conditions. So they all favor cesarean section. Bed rest is advised to prevent the early rupture of membrane. You have to advise the bed rest to prevent the early rupture of membranes. Patient advised to lie opposite to the side to which the fetal back lies. So wherever the fetal back is lying, either right or left side, the patient should lie exactly opposite to it. This is to make the rotation of the back anteriorly. When the patient lies exactly opposite to the side of the fetal back, there are chances that there may be spontaneous rotation of the back and so the back comes anteriorly. Routine management protocol should be followed as in normal labor. This routine management protocol means we have to maintain the aseptic precautions. The pubic hair should be removed. The abdomen should be painted with the antiseptic solution. The bowel evacuation should be done by enema. The bladder should be made empty before you take the patient on labor table. So these are the routine management protocol. So these we have to follow in the occipital posterior position delivery also. Due to chances of prolonged labor, you have to focus more on maintaining nutrition of the patient. So your concentration should be to maintain the nutritional status of the patient. The fluids are given by mouth. Solid should be avoided for chances of emergency cesarean section. So these we have discussed in normal labor also. Whenever normal labor does not progress and we have to take decision of the emergency CS, patient's stomach should be empty and that's why solid should not be given during delivery. Nutrition may be provided by intravenous fluids. Sedatives and the analgesics are given to prevent exhaustion because there are chances of the prolonged labor, there are chances that the patient may get exhausted. So to prevent exhaustion, sedatives and the analgesics are useful. Progress of labor is judged by maternal condition, uterine contractions, progress of the presenting part in terms of descent and progress of cervical dilatation. Whether labor is progressing or not, how can you know it? You can judge it, you can assess it by certain factors like maternal condition, uterine contraction. As the labor progresses, contraction becomes stronger. Then progress of the presenting part in terms of the descent. That means engagement of the fetal presenting part occurs in pelvic brim. After that, with the progress of labor, the head should descend. Head means the presenting part should descend. From the brim, it should come to pelvic floor. So when progressive descent is there, that means labor is progressing, right? And what is the degree of cervical dilatation? From 1 finger, 2 finger, it should be complete 4 finger cervical dilatation. Then only we can say that labor is progressing. Management in the second stage. Mostly good progress of labor occurs and the baby is delivered spontaneously or by low forceps or by vacuum extractor. So either there can occur spontaneous expulsion of the fetus or you may need to go for forceps delivery or using vacuum extractor. Arrested labor diagnosed clinically when no progress of fetal head into vagina and FHS above 160 per minute. We can diagnose the arrested labor when you find that the fetal head is not appearing, not coming into the vagina. Head remains high only, like head in pelvic floor only. It has not descended down, it has not come down. Then you can say the labor may be arrested. And you may find the sign of the fetal distress like FHS above 160 per minute, that is tachycardia in the FHS. So that is also in favor of the arrested labor. In such case, operative treatment indicated in these conditions. So you have to go for the operative management in such condition. Now whenever you require the operative management, first vaginal examination is done to confirm full cervical dilatation, position of the arrest of occiput, where the occiput has arrested, attitude, that is the deflection and the station of the fetal head and the caput formation and the pelvic capacity. So these things should be confirmed by vaginal examination. If the head is engaged with full complete cervical dilatation and the adequate pelvic capacity for DTA, that is deep transverse arrest, and oblique occipito-posterior arrest, manual rotation of the head should be done, followed by mid-forceps delivery. For the occipitosacral arrest, where the head is low down, mid-forceps delivery of fetus should be done as face to pubis with episiotomy, especially in priming gravida. That is advisable. Episiotomy is done to protect the perineum, as the chances of perineal tear are in occipito-posterior position of the vertex. Alternatively, for DTA, that is deep transverse arrest, ROP or LOP position, and occipitosacral arrest, one can perform forceps rotation by keel end forceps. You can see the picture of the keel end forceps in your book. In the last pages of the book, you will find the pictures of the various instruments used in gynecology and the obstetric practice. In that you may find the picture of this keel end forceps. So it is used for the birth of the fetus, and you can rotate the fetus with this keel end forceps, rotate the fetal head with the keel end forceps, and that is followed by delivery with the same forceps only. Now caesarean section is indicated when os remains undilated due to uterine inertia with evidence of the fetal distress, one of the indications of caesarean section. Where vaginal delivery is found to be unsafe due to mid-pelvic dystocia, another indication of caesarean section. What is this mid-pelvic dystocia? It is a difficult labor due to pelvic contraction at the level of ischial spines. So in these two conditions, you can go for the caesarean section. Craniotomy is indicated where the cranial vault is opened, that is craniotomy, where the head with occipito-posterior position is impacted in the pelvis and fetus is dead due to obstructed labor. This we discuss management in the second stage. Now we come to management in the third stage. Prophylactic anti-hemorrhagic drug should be given after birth of the fetus to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. Care of the newborn should be taken. After the birth, the newborn should be taken care of, and during the birth of the fetus, if any injuries have developed in the birth passage, they should be repaired. So that was the management in the third stage. That was all about occipito-posterior position of the vertex. I hope you could all understand the entire topic very well through these 3 video lectures. Thank you.